Hello everybody, Mark here with Midgard Mercantile, back for another live stream. We're here this weekend, showing you guys some cool rocks, some cool crystals, maybe a few fossils if we have any to display today. It's been a while since our last stream, but we're gonna get back into the groove of it. So we got all sorts of stuff to kind of show you guys today. To give you guys a rundown of how it works, we basically have all sorts of gems, minerals, and fossils from around the world, and each thing has a price. We have a little showcase display right here, so basically I will kind of go through each specimen with you guys and list off the price if you guys like it. In the comments section or in the live stream chat, just say I want that thing, and we'll kind of get your order taken care of for you. So without further ado, I guess we'll just get started. So we're going to start off with some lapis lazuli. This stuff is from Pakistan, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Take a look at this. Now, lapis commonly is found in like metamorphic rocks. So areas where you're going to find like lots of tectonic activity. That means uplift, mountain building. So you'll find it in the mountains most often. You can actually find some in California. There's a location like somewhere in the San Gabriel Mountains above LA. I've always wanted to go and check it out, but it's a pretty treacherous hike. But anyways, it's beautiful stuff. This piece here is $105. This is a AAA piece of lapis. So lapis is graded by the vibrancy of the blue. It is also graded by the weight. So we have three different like grading processes for minerals. We have single A, so A, double A, and triple A. Triple A is the best quality, single A is the lowest quality. And then each kind of scale, each category has its own pricing group. So it's usually priced out by the gram or the kilo. This stuff is absolutely gorgeous. A little bit of a history about lapis. The Babylonian Empire prized lapis, and there's a famous gate. It was a city gate called the Gate of Ishtar, and this gate was supposedly lined with lapis. It was covered with blue lapis tiles. And this was back in the ancient times when lapis was such a prized material. It was hard to get. You could only find it in the mountains. So if you had lapis, like an abundance of it, that meant to, other empires that, wow, these people must be really, really powerful. They must have a lot of like wealth to be able to get such beautiful material, when really it wasn't lapis. So the Gate of Ishtar, you can actually see it in Iraq. There's a museum and it still exists. It's literally like the whole gate has been covered with a building, and the gate has been covered with blue glazed tiles. So it's not lapis, it's like pseudo lapis. So that way kind of gave the appearance of like, oh, our empire is so great and fancy, when really it was kind of like a facade. So kind of a neat little thing. Again, this piece here is $105. Gonna move on to our next one. We got 3 pieces of lapis I think we're gonna show today. This piece is really nice. If you guys are familiar with a type of rock called gneiss, you might notice some similarities with this material. So gneiss is a metamorphic rock. Think of metamorphosed diorite or granite. Basically, when the granite, let's take granite for example. Granite, you have basically a bunch of quartz, biotite, some feldspar, and it's all spotted. It's basically littered throughout the material evenly. But if you heat and pressurize that rock enough, you can actually recrystallize out those materials. And what will happen if you give it enough pressure, you'll actually flatten those minerals, and they'll flatten out, smear out into lines, really long linear layers, which is what causes this, like, these striations here. So whenever you see these like kind of linear lines and it's a rock, not a sedimentary rock, that usually indicates there was some sort of metamorphosis going on. Some heat and pressure altered the rock and changed it chemically and physically. So this piece here is $120. It's definitely a much deeper blue than the other one. The other one I like because it had like some sort of, kind of like a, looks almost like clouds in the sky, those little white patches on it. This is nice too. You get some like nice, lighter lines going through it, kind of giving some contrast to the lapis, which is kind of nice. Yeah, I really like this piece. And also too, you might notice some kind of like little glints or flashes inside of the lapis. You might even be able to see it up close here. Those are little pockets of iron pyrite. So this material is iron rich, and it's sulfur rich. So definitely if you are a geologist, you'll know that, okay, so we got iron and sulfur, so we have metallic ores and we have sulfur, some sort of like volcanism or some sort of tectonic activity going on, kind of maybe something, injecting itself into the rock. It's beautiful stone. Again, this piece is $120 from Pakistan. Another beautiful piece of lapis. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next piece here. This one is pretty big. It's a pretty large specimen. Ugh. Let's see how much this one weighs. This is, I think that's probably in kilos, 2.34. So this piece, definitely one of our largest specimens of lapis. $318 for this piece. So definitely a scale up here. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. There we go. So as you can see, the size has definitely increased. This is a massive piece. This would be a piece that you'd want to show, like, you'd want to have it on your mantle somewhere, somewhere like on a shelf, to display really nicely. I mean, these pieces are absolutely gorgeous. And the way it's cut too, we have the layering on the side, and then we have kind of like blue kind of bordering the bottom and the top. And then also this face here, I'm just going to set it down real quick. Stands up on its own. Very nice. Look at that deep blue. I mean, just look at that. And absolutely gorgeous. That color is beautiful. I love bright minerals like this. It's always just kind of like a trip to see so much color in nature, especially like something like this. Oftentimes people see something like this and they're like, oh, it must be artificial. It's always kind of shocking to say, oh, well, it's not artificial, it's actually real, it's natural. Again, this piece was $318, another gorgeous piece. Alright, we're gonna move on to some green pieces. So, we got some malachite here to show, and then we also have some chrome quartz. So, malachite, if you are not aware, is a copper carbonate mineral. And what that means is that you have water seeping down into some copper-rich rocks. And what will happen is the water will dissolve the copper, and as it kind of settles down and maybe gets into like a hollow cavity like a cave, what will happen is that this copper-rich water will evaporate, and it will take some other chemicals and elements from around its surroundings and kind of precipitate a little tiny layer, a very thin layer of like copper residue. And this copper residue could be turquoise, could be malachite, depending on the copper ions available. And over the course of thousands, hundreds, millions of years, you can have these beautiful layer cakes of just copper. Generally, I've seen some different situations where if you have an area with a lot of rainfall, you can get precipitation rates that are really high. Like something like this could form within 50 years. For example, there's some copper mines in England where you have like the whole walls of the mine. This thing was maybe like dug out a couple hundred years ago, but it's like coated with beautiful layers of turquoise and chrysocolla. So yeah, malachite is just one of those really pretty stones. In different cultures, it symbolizes different things. In China, it symbolizes like prosperity, and just the green color, just like it kind of symbolizes abundance. So you can think of it as like a very forest green, so life. It's a very pretty and rich rock, very cool mineral. And just look at those layering. Look at the layering in there. That layering is all basically from those little layers precipitating out over and over and over again. Each time there was a rainfall event or some sort of precipitation going on, it would leave behind a tiny little layer. And you can see, some of those layers are lighter than others or darker than others. And so depending on the color, that basically determines, like, that shows you how much copper is really in that layer. So you can definitely see, it's like almost like tree rings looking at that in that way. And then the bottom is just really cool. It's like just mesmerizing. It's almost like watching, some of those cool like art pieces where they're just, these artists are just pouring paint onto a canvas. It's really cool. So $78 for this gorgeous piece. A lot of our malachite pieces that are about this size are going to be $78. For example, like this next piece we're going to show. This is a $78 piece. And all of these malachite pieces, the large ones at least, they are from the Congo. The Congo has a ton of malachite. Actually, that's like, I think it's actually their national mineral is malachite. So they have a ton of copper mines. It's a very copper-rich nation, and malachite is used for a lot of different things. In like ancient societies in Africa, for example, they would use malachite. They'd crush it up, and they would use it as like a pigment for paint. So they'd use it as body paint, or use it as paint for painting a wall or something like that. So these minerals have been used and they've been around for a very long time. Again, this piece here, $78, another gorgeous piece. A little lighter layering. It's just definitely has a different look for sure. I really like it. We've got some nice layering going on right here. Some looms almost. Very, very cool. Definitely love this stuff. Alright, we're going to move on to our next specimen here. This one's kind of neat. It's kind of like a bowl. You have this little cup here. So generally when these are mined or cut, they kind of cake onto the rock that they're on. And so oftentimes, since the density of the malachite is a little bit different, it's a little, there's definitely a density variation between the rock that it forms on and and the malachite itself. So all it usually takes is a little vibration, like a hammer, or some hitting of the parent rock, the matrix rock that it's on, to make this stuff kind of jump off or kind of crack off. Imagine frosting, on a cake. It basically is like frosting. And when you find this stuff in nature, it does look like that. It's the whole, if you go into a copper mine, you might even see the walls of the mine or the ceiling of the mine just covered in beautiful malachite or chrysocolla. Only seen that once in my life, which was definitely a very cool experience. So yeah, just take a look at those. And also too, we got a little face here, all these different shapes. So these layers definitely make this piece look beautiful. And this piece here is $78. And some of these pieces, they can be the size of like a desk. You know, they can be pretty massive. I haven't seen anything larger than that. So I would say like the largest cluster I've seen of malachite or turquoise would be maybe about a couple feet in diameter. So these guys definitely, they form in like kind of crevasses or like little kind of cavities in the ground. Very rarely do you have something where there's enough space and you give it enough time to form such a huge kind of like cluster. This next malachite cluster we're going to show, this is our largest one. This is $129. This one is very pretty. We have lots of detailed strata in here, lots of beautiful layering going on. So as you can see, this piece is pretty massive. And just the layers, I mean, it looks like looking at marbled wood, you know. It is a very pretty mineral. You can also even get a little glimpse of what this stuff looks like in nature. These little rough spots, like right here and like right here. You know, that's what it would look like from the outside. Like not finished, obviously. So it definitely looks pretty by itself, but when you cut into it, you start to notice like, oh wow, there's all these different layers going on. There's a lot more to this mineral than meets the eye. So it's definitely very cool. Just gonna turn it around from the other side here. And as you can see too, I mean, look at that. Look at the layering in there. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely. Yeah, I really like it. Again, this piece is $129. Very pretty from the Congo. We're going to move on to another green mineral. This next mineral, this is a altered mineral, so it's not 100% natural, but it's still very pretty. So this next flat we're going to show, this is a flat of chrome quartz. Now, chrome quartz is basically a type of quartz that has been put into a bath, some kind of like mineral bath of some kind. So basically, you can take anything like a piece of quartz, like a quartz crystal cluster, or maybe a watch or a skull or anything, basically any object you want, and just sit it into a bath. And what will happen is it will basically just, you know, grow crystals on it. So if you have, let's say, some kind of dissolved solution in this bath with different chemicals, it'll basically just, you know, precipitate out these little crystals onto the crystal. So for example, we have these chrome quartz clusters, and these are all they're all about like $55. Let's just say that. So these ones, I'd say these. We're gonna let's see. We'll have these be $54. So we have smaller ones and larger ones. The larger ones kind of range to like $59. So as you can see, we have like, you know, basically a cluster. There was a quartz cluster, and once it was put into the bath, it basically just got coated and covered with all these different crystals. So the name, chrome quartz, it's kind of a, you know, a little intuitive. Basically, you had a chromium-rich acid bath that these were sitting in, and heat was applied with a little bit of electricity, and crystals were growing on top of the quartz. And so you get this kind of like spiky cactus-like quartz that's all green. It's very cool. And depending on what kind of like elements you use, it will change the color and the look of the specimen. This piece here This is another $54 specimen. As you can see, we got some facets there, so we can actually take a look into the quartz itself. These pieces are really pretty. They're definitely like a display piece that you want to put on a mantle somewhere for sure. So, you know, I definitely recommend something like that. Alrighty, we'll put this one aside for you. $54 on that lovely specimen. This next one, this is one of the bigger ones. This is a $59 chrome quartz specimen. And I love these large ones. So oftentimes when these are being made, it takes a long time. The longer you leave the crystal in the bath, the more crystal deposits that will be growing on the surface. So for example, something like this, you know, probably was left in for quite a while. We have all those beautiful little like chrome crystals growing on there. Very, very neat. It almost looks like a little city. Now, not to mention, you know, the process just of making these is pretty intense. Basically, you have to have the space to set up a big bath to soak these crystals in for maybe a week or a couple weeks, and then you have to monitor them. You know, make sure that none of the crystals are getting messed up, or you know the current is not dropping or what have you. And a lot of these are basically just suspended on a metal grate, so it's in the bath, and it's just a very like intense process. For those who have seen our other streams, we've shown some like vacuum deposition pieces with coatings of like gold and platinum. Those are a different process, right? But again, very labor intensive. So definitely, you know, if you want to try something like this as a side project, definitely it'd be a fun thing to do. Again, this piece was $59. We're going to show another $59 piece here. This piece probably wasn't left in as long. You can kind of tell that the crystals on the surface are a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, quite a bit smaller. And as you can see too, on the bottom, this is where that grate was. So they were suspended in this bath. And that's basically how they you know, create these things. And it's like really like a work of art. You know, some people are really into like just, you know, obviously all natural stuff, and I love all natural stuff too, but you got to appreciate, you know, these things too. It is like an art form. It really is. Some people are really into like just, you know, obviously all natural stuff, and I love all natural stuff too, but you got to appreciate. Yeah, this one's really pretty. It's like a light frosting. All right, we're going to show a $54 one. This one has some tinier points on here. It's a bit greener as well, so the green is a little more vibrant. You know, one thing I've noticed too is that the chromium being added to this does add a little extra weight to the piece, so the density does change, just gets increased. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. All right, we're gonna move on to our next flat. We got all sorts of stuff here. Let's see what we got going next. I think I'm going to show off some of these pyrite clusters. So let's get this flat out. Put this one back. That's the one part about being a rock hound, right? Got heavy flats and rocks to lift and move around. Get your exercise in for sure. All right. So we got these beautiful pyrite clusters, and these guys are from Peru. And these are just gorgeous. We have a lot of them here. I'm just going to do like a quick kind of like glance at this flat just to show you guys. But basically, we have all sorts of them here. So these are all $10 each. As you can see, they're all like a little bit different. Now, pyrite, or iron pyrite, basically has iron and sulfur in it, and usually it forms in areas where there's some volcanism going on. So geothermal activity, that kind of thing. Basically, wherever you have volcanism, you might find like something like this. You can also find these in areas where, maybe you have like some, dead sea critters that were buried out deep in the ocean, and then something happened where that, little area got uplifted above sea level, and you can find pyrite in sea cliffs and that kind of thing. So decaying sea life will actually emit sulfur, and the iron that's inside of the sea critter will actually basically condense and turn into iron pyrite with enough heat and pressure, which is kind of neat. So let's take a closer look at some of these. So we got quite a few here. So as you can see, we have some different crystal facets here. These are all about the same. They're all found in the same area. So the shape of the crystal, especially for iron crystals, really depends on the heat, the temperature at which it cooled at. So depending on if it cooled at, I don't know, if it crystallized out at like 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 700 degrees Fahrenheit, it actually will change the shape of the crystal. So depending on the environment, you'll find different shapes. You can find cubic pyrite, you can find octahedral pyrite. These ones are really nice. These nice kind of like octahedral clusters. They have so many facets that they just reflect all the light off of them. They look like a little disco ball when you kind of have them in the sunlight. Very, very pretty. So we definitely have quite a few here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show maybe a handful, and if anybody wants something else, a different one that I show, after the live stream, we can take some pictures for you guys. So I'm going to get this all set up again. Alrighty. I'll choose the prettiest pieces here. And I guess that is kind of like a basis of perspective. What I think is pretty, probably not everybody's going to think is pretty, but we'll see. I think I have some good taste here. Let's see here. We got quite a few really pretty pieces here. I think these are good. Alright, so start off with this guy. We got this beautiful, tiny little pyrite cluster here. As you can see, lots of different facets. I like how cavernous they are. They have like little pockets and little things where the light can just kind of shine into. They are very pretty. And, the shape is really reminiscent of a garnet. Kind of neat. Show another one here. So this guy, definitely a lot more cleaner. So cleaner facets. Depending on which one you choose, it really depends. Each stone is variable. So you might have one that's doesn't have the cleanest facets in the world. Maybe one has really pristine facets. Each one is different, has its own little personality. Yeah, this one is very pretty. Alrighty, we're gonna move on to our next one. This one is kind of interesting. We have this like flat, kind of blade-like iron pyrite specimen here. It's pretty neat. Now, you know, one thing I'd like to mention too about these guys is, you know, I mean, I love metallic minerals. You know, they're just really flashy and like pretty to look at. They're sparkly. I like sparkly stuff. So, you know, when you see something like this in nature, you know, it really just catches your eye. You know, it doesn't even matter. Like if you see a piece of pyrite, like just in a rock somewhere, you know, it's gonna catch your eye. If you are curious to find some of these, if you want to try to find some of these, there are plenty of localities along this the eastern border of California. So that goes along like Arizona, Nevada. You can find all sorts of basically metallic mineral mines. So gold mines, silver mines, copper mines, iron mines. A lot of people, when they think of like a metallic ore mine, they kind of think about gold, you know, or silver. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, an iron mine, that sounds really boring. Not when you're finding stuff like this, right? If you're finding stuff like this, it's not boring. I've had quite a few like intellectual like talks with my colleagues about this kind of stuff. Like, what would they want to go to? What kind of mine would they find interesting? Iron mines are very interesting. Generally, you're going to find them in the middle of nowhere, and because iron, especially in the United States, there's not a lot of like operational iron mines anymore. Most of our iron actually comes from overseas. There's a ton of abandoned iron mines now. So, and they're mostly all on BLM land. If you do the research, I mean, definitely, I do not condone going into abandoned mines, but if you want to check it out, you can. The resources are available to you. So, yes. I love iron. Iron pyrite is awesome. This next piece is really cool. We have like a kind of like an iron druzy. So we have, it's almost like we have cubic pyrite, right? Which is really interesting to see. What this tells me is that the temperature was variable in the location that these clusters were coming from. So basically lots of jumping around. Maybe maybe there was like at one point there was more temperature, maybe more heat, less heat, more heat, less heat. The fact that you have cubes only form at the lowest temperature for crystallization. So, which is very rare, because to have iron crystals you need pretty high temperatures at a very stable level for quite a long time. So to have something like this is pretty uncommon, especially with these gorgeous little druzies on it, little tiny sparkly clusters on there. I really like this piece. Next we'll show 3 more here. We'll move on to our next flat. This piece is really nice. Very flashy, lots of facets. This would be pretty to put in like your windowsill. Metaphysically speaking, if you need some grounding energy, if you feel like you're up in the air, overwhelmed by all the things going on in the world, you want to be brought back down to earth, something like this is really nice. I mean, heck, it's iron. It's very heavy. The core of the Earth is made of iron and nickel, so there's nothing. There's not much that is denser in the physical world that we can obtain. So, yeah, this stuff is very cool. We'll move on to our next one here. This one's kind of neat. We have some oxidation going on that little facet there. Some colors flashing around. Again, these are all $10 each. And they're from Peru. You know, an iron pyrite too is just one of those things that you'll find anywhere. Like every gift shop in America has one. Has like a little tumbled stone section where you can get a piece of iron pyrite. It's it's one of those common things you see all the time, which is why I think a lot of people really don't appreciate it since it's just there. So it is a very pretty mineral. I'm going to show one more, and then we'll move on to our next flat. This one is really cool. So this one's neat. We basically have some nice big facets on this side, and then if we turn it on its side, you can see all of those little crystal layers. So that's actually the crystal habit. So in like quartz crystals, we see phantoms, right? So phantoms, since the crystal is translucent, we can see through it. We can see those phantoms kind of floating within the crystal. But with iron pyrite, you can't really see that because it's basically an opaque solid. Light does not go through it at all. So if you break it open at basically across one of the planes, you can actually see those crystal growth lines. These are actually like little phantoms. Same kind of thing. So those are just like growth lines for the crystal. Alrighty. I'm going to put all these away. So if you guys want some of those, just let us know and we'll take some pictures for you. We have a whole flat of them. These are from Peru. They're so gorgeous. I'll miss them until next time I see them. Let's see what else we got going on here. So we got the chrome quartz covered. We got the iron pyrite covered. Now we got these two tiny flats. Looks like we have some cubic pyrite. Yeah, this is the flats. I can tell these guys are cubic pyrite. So this is cubic pyrite from Spain, Nazca, Spain, and it is a famous locality that has these huge like limestone formations, and inside the limestone you have these iron pyrite clusters just forming. But it is very peculiar because all the clusters form cubes. Cubic pyrite is one of the rarest forms of iron pyrite, and the fact that it's there in abundance is kind of crazy. So they form in all different sizes. These are like basically the low mid-range size. I've seen them as large as like a softball, maybe even a little bit bigger, and they're gorgeous, right? So obviously these have been cleaned up, and there's no matrix material, meaning the rock that it formed in isn't like attached to the crystal anymore. But these are absolutely gorgeous, and a lot of people will see these and they'll say, wow, like this must be man-made. It cannot be real. And then I show people the specimen inside the matrix rock, like saying, hey, this actually formed inside of the earth. And then they're like, wow, something like the earth can create something so perfect like this. It really is like a like kind of like a humbling experience in a way, because when you see something that's like very man-made, you think straight edges, very artificial. But hey, nature can make some perfect edges too, or near perfect. These definitely are not perfect. You can even see there's like some variation to the surface, but it's like a mirror finish. It really is. So all of these pieces here, these are all $48 each. These are all like kind of, again, those mid-range clusters, and they all have tiny cubes growing off of them. So obviously this one is like just one massive cube, right? And we have some tiny cubes kind of like clustering off like a little branch. And so this flat just basically, that's what they, every single specimen in this flat has that in common. Each specimen will have some tiny clusters growing off of it. And, these are actually very particular. You're not going to find these all over the world. These are only found in Spain, like in abundance. And only one family-owned mine owns it and runs that whole area. Like, that's like their property. So if you ever want to get something like this, you have to get it from them, which is, it's not a bad thing, but just is what it is. So But you can actually go there to Spain, and you can do a pay to dig thing. So you can actually go there and mine for these guys. It's pretty cool. So if you're ever in Spain and you love rocks, I definitely recommend going. Tell them that Midgard Mercantile sent you. Got another cool cluster here. Now these are great like for paperweights. Just putting on your desk, putting on an altar, just holding. They're fairly heavy too, so they're definitely not light. Heck, you might even be able to see the reflection of my camera here. Yeah, you can see it, my little phone camera. So, you know, definitely some pretty close to mirror finish facets here. Very cool. I'm gonna show a couple more of these. This one's pretty neat. This one has the most clusters on it. Yeah, this is really pretty. Now, because of the minimal facets, it's not going to like have that disco ball effect. For example, this piece here. This is one of my pieces from my personal collection. Look at all of the facets on this, right? So each one of those facets will be reflecting light, and that light will shine onto every surface, you know, in the area that you're in. So if you're in a room, it'll just glow like a disco ball. So because the minimal facets on these cubes, it doesn't have that like kind of glorious effect, but it's cool for other reasons, obviously. So because you have this cool cube, right? I mean, these are really neat. But it's cool for other reasons. Alrighty. Again, these were all $48 from Spain. Very, very cool specimens. I like them. They make me happy. Alright, so next we have some agate slabs. These were quite a big hit last time. So we usually release them in like limited quantity since we only have like so much. And they're all so different. So I'll basically show 10 and set them aside for this this live stream this weekend. So I'm going to show quite a few. All of these agate slabs come from Brazil. And they are absolutely gorgeous. Okay, let's see how many that is. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like I'm counting coins. 7, 8, 9. And let's choose one more. Let's choose this one. This one's pretty cool. Oh, wait, no, this one's awesome. It's like a little face. All right, I'm going to start with this one because it's really cool. So, this is a happy agate slab. So as you can see, we have quite a few stuff going on here. So agate is just a term for a whole group of minerals. Basically, they're all silica-based, and they usually form in arid environments. These are all $6 each. Pretty good price. So basically you have like all these different layers. You might even be able to see the layering in there. And alrighty, I'll put it aside for you. Basically, each layer is just like the malachite we showed earlier, like tree rings, right? So they're growth lines. They basically show the growth pattern of the crystal. And so each layer might be a little bit different. You might have some whites, some blacks, some blues, some greens, some yellows, some purples, depending on what elements were in the environment. But basically what you need is arid environment, pocket underground for these things to form, so usually in ash or mud. And water, so some sort of rainfall event. And that water needs to dissolve some minerals. So minerals like silica also carry with it some elements that could change the colors of the layers. So normally what you'll have is you'll have a pocket that's coated. The inside of the pocket is coated with like these botryoidal kind of bubbly layers of, you know, like silica. That's all this is, these layers. And then once that whole pocket is closed off, it'll pressurize and crystals will start to form in the middle of this pocket. So generally what will happen is that these, as you can see, there's kind of like these crystal grains here. You might be able to see it. So see those crystal grains in the middle? That basically will start to form once you have the pocket closed completely. If it's not closed, it's just going to form these kind of like precipitation lines. But once you don't have any more water going in there, basically, you know, precipitation stops. At that point, you have crystal growth occurring. It's a whole thing. There's like actually a whole like textbook on agate formation, which I've only read a little bit about. You can get a minor in that kind of stuff. This is kind of neat. So you have like these smoky kind of like little cells almost. These are really interesting. Basically, you get this kind of cut when you cut through the layers. So this wasn't cut through the middle of this agate geode or whatever this was, this slab of agate. This was cut from the edge. So these layers, right? Those are the like inside of the layers. This is like basically cutting through a piece of malachite, except just a different material. And what's also neat too, you know, a lot of these slabs, again, these are all $6 each. A lot of these slabs, they, you know, from the outside, they just look like a normal rock. I mean, you know, you'll see something like this, for example, which has like this rind. It looks like a cobblestone. The only way you can tell if it is like a geode or an agate, you got to tell if it's made out of silica. And silica, if you have like a rock hammer or something made out of metal and you hit or tap the material, it'll actually make a high-pitched ting sound. And so you'll be able to tell just by hearing that sound that, oh, this must be like made out of silica or mostly silica. If you hear some other kind of sound that's like a little bit deeper, it's probably just a rock. After you hear it enough times, you know it's a very, very unique sound. So generally that's how they're found. A lot of times you find them in riverbeds, so you'll have like a ton of people with big buckets kind of going through the riverbed looking for these. And yeah, sometimes there's hits and misses. You know, you might find something that could just be a piece of rock, nothing special. But most of the time, you know, if you've been doing this for years, it's like you know exactly what to look for, what to listen for. So this piece is really neat. I love like these little cells here. As you can see, the agate pocket closed off pretty early on, and then crystals just began to form in the middle. It almost looks like an eye, which is really neat. This one is very pretty. Just the layering in it alone is to die for. Yeah, I mean, you can even tell from like just this angle too. You get that kind of like cross like faded look, and then because the layers are so translucent, you can just see through all of them. But once you kind of align it with those layers, I mean, they are so defined. Yeah, this one's very pretty. I like these because they're just so like kind of mysterious and smoky. The darker agate slabs are definitely my favorite. When we got these, A lot of times, because of the nature of silica, you can actually like alter it, you can dye it. I have never been a fan of dyed geodes or dyed like agate slabs. I think that they're beautiful and just fine just the way they are. So when we bought these, we were like, okay, we want to make if we want to have these in our shop, we got to make sure we buy them from somebody who has not treated them. Because most of the time when you go into a gift shop or something like that, you know, most of them are treated, which, you know, I mean, again, I guess it's like art, you know, so you gotta, you know, everything can be appreciated in that sense. Now this one is really pretty. It's like a slice of a peach. Look at that. Now, if I don't let the light come through it, kind of see we have this like kind of cream colored center, very light orange layering going on, and this piece is very cool. It almost looks like an orange. And we have a also this actually probably would have been classified as a geode because it was hollow. So we have this kind of cute little like druzy quartz cluster in there, which is pretty neat. So our next one here. This one's pretty neat too. Kind of like the same kind of look. So if we have no light shining through it. It's very pretty. The crystal grains in the center, if you ever have that, that's always kind of like a nice touch, since it adds some contrast to the slab. This also would have been classified as a geode since there is some hollow cavities I can feel in here in the center. Let's take a close look. Yeah, these are absolutely gorgeous. Alrighty, we got 4 more here. This one's pretty cool. This one has like almost like some purples going on in here. So as you can see, the color of the slab definitely changes if you allow light to like shine through it or not. Most of these lighter kind of like whitish grayish layers definitely pop more when there's no light shining through it, as you can see. But then if we have that light shining through, the other more colorful bright layers kind of shine through even more. Very pretty. And this one's kind of cool. We have a little pocket that goes all the way through the slab, which is pretty neat. So, you'll be able to see that there. Got a little hole right there, kind of cool. And the contrast is just gorgeous. I mean, we have a dark kind of like rind along the outside perimeter, and then we have this really white like quartz crystal cluster in the center. And take a look at some of those like darker layers. I mean, that's like really pretty. The contrast is very gorgeous. Our next 2 here, we have this one. This one's really neat because the agate layers, they actually layered out in accordance to gravity. So this must have been like a flat-lying kind of like pocket, and each layer kind of settled out just like this. So this basically tells you that the pocket was kind of like in this orientation, and really heavy mineral rich water, like hard mineral rich water, like seeped into this pocket and just layered out like frosting almost. You don't normally see this kind of stuff, so when you do, it's absolutely gorgeous. All right, Lisa, put it aside for you. Yeah, these, I love these. We have a couple thunder eggs from Oregon that we've mined that show this kind of layering, and it really is like a trip to see. This last one is really cool. We have just a ton of layers, really bright layers. Look at that. So without any light going through it, we got quite a few going on here. Look at that. Very cool. Yeah, these are absolutely gorgeous. I love these like very high contrast layers. It kind of like makes you really appreciate the stone more. Makes everything else pop. And as you can see, those crystal grains, because you're basically cutting through the whole crystal, you basically have like these little cells. It's very cellular, which gives it kind of like a really neat look. Alrighty, so that's our agate slabs that we're going to show today. Quite a few of them. So basically, if there's any more that you guys like, we're more than happy to take some pictures for you guys and get that kind of taken care of. Next, we're going to look at probably some, well, let's look at some spheres. We have a couple of obsidian spheres here to take a look at here. Again, all of those agate slabs were $6 each. Very, very beautiful. Next, we have these gorgeous spheres. These are from Mexico. This is Mexican silver sheen obsidian. And if we're lucky, we might be able to see a little bit of that sheen. This one has some of it. All right, let's hope we can see it. Might have to show some other ones. So basically, these obsidian spheres, again, cheap spheres, right? $39 for like a rock sphere. Pretty good price. Obsidian is pretty easy to work with. It's not like the hardest thing in the world. So it's easy to work with. You can shape it and that kind of stuff. And it's very abundant. There's obsidian all over the planet. So you're not going to... It's not like buying a quartz sphere, which is going to be like at least over $100 this size. But obsidian is actually very nice. Metaphysically speaking, a lot of the darker minerals are really great for repelling negative energy. And then also too, the story about these guys is pretty neat. So when you have obsidian kind of like coming up and like depositing out, you could have like situations where you could have ash being trapped in between the obsidian layers, and that can create little air pockets and little bubbles. And it's not the most perfect material in the world. There's many imperfections, so you can have like minerals or even metals being kind of intruded or included in the obsidian. So you might see some inclusions in some of these spheres. Most of them do have like some sheen. So when I say silver sheen, right, that basically means that there's some inclusions in here that basically pop out if you kind of shine the sphere in a certain direction, you'll see like a little reflective layer inside of the sphere. And they're a little bit hard to spot when these are so small, but there's a little bit of a glint in them. Kind of. It's hard to see on the camera though. But they're pretty cool. $39. I like them. We get these from a Mexican family, and they have a shop out in Tucson. They've been like mining and doing this kind of stuff for years. They like make a ton of really cool like handmade stuff. They have a ton of sphere machines, and the largest sphere that I've ever seen them make is like the size of a washing machine. Like, you need to have a custom-made machine just to make something that large. And these things are like tens of thousands of dollars. This would be something you'd see like in a hotel lobby or some like mansion somewhere. The pieces that they make are phenomenal. So, and we like being a family business too. We like working with other people that are like that. And what's nice is that, most of the people in this kind of business are, they're all family-owned businesses from around the world. So, for example, all of our Indian specimens, like our zeolite minerals from India, there's a father and son family business. They have a outlet here in the U.S., but they're from India, and they have we get all of our Indian specimens from them, which is really awesome. They're very sweet people. So this next piece I'm going to show is also from Mexico. It is from the Sonoran Desert, and it is a desert rose cluster, and it's $40. Absolutely beautiful. I love these. I think we showed this last time. We have a couple more clusters like this. These are extraordinarily cheap considering their size and how pretty they are. And that's mainly just due to the fact that they're very abundant. Desert roses are just one of those things you're going to find, in every gift shop. So a lot of people don't really appreciate them for what they are. And they're just really neat. So generally we're going to find these in desert environments, like in sand, like the dunes, that kind of thing. And basically what happens is that since it rains very seldomly in the desert, what will happen is you'll have rain come down and basically dissolve some minerals in the soil really fast, and then quickly evaporate. And what will happen is it will kind of precipitate out something along the lines of gypsum. So this is actually like a form of selenite or gypsum, and so it's a fairly soft mineral. It's actually softer than your fingernail. You could actually leave a scratch mark on this with your fingernail, believe it or not. And because of that, it's very soft. It's not that dense. It forms very, very easily, very, very quickly. But because it rains so seldomly in the desert, you only find these in very particular locations. So to have these larger clusters like this, larger clusters take quite a long time to form. Could probably thousands or tens of thousands of years. The smaller, desert rose clusters, that are about the size of a golf ball, those probably took maybe, give or take a couple hundred years or so. They form relatively quickly, but they're beautiful. I love them. All right, next we're going to show some more cool stuff. All right, so what we got here. We already got our agate slabs taken care of. Next, we're going to look at some pendants. So we have all sorts of stuff, right? Midgard mercantile. So mercantile meaning just stuff. Things that we sell. We have all sorts of things like pendants, handmade knives, crystals, rocks, basically treasures of the earth. That's what Midgard is. Midgard is the Norse word for the earth, and we have treasures of the earth. So we have all sorts of pendants here. I think we showed these last time. We have these really beautiful handmade chakra tree pendants. We have two types here. These are all set in sterling silver, and as you can see, they have all of the chakra gemstones on them, so which is really neat. These are really pretty to wear if you want to have some balance in your life. Take that with you. Put this on your purse, put this on a basket, put it around your neck. So these guys, the circle form is $14 each, but we also have a heart version as well. So the heart is like this. so in the shape of a heart. So kind of like one of those neat little things, right? If you want to have like a little bit of love in there, you know. Really depends on what your style is. So these guys here are $18 each. So the heart's 18, the circle is 14. I would say these are about like 2 inches in diameter. So they're fairly large. The circle is definitely like, this is fairly big. I would recommend, like, if you really want to, like, if you like big jewelry, definitely get this. If you want something that's like more like kind of subtle, I would get the circle. But yeah, they're really pretty. And all of them are pretty much the same. There's like, you know, an artist that we work with makes these, so, you know, it's basically like the same formula. They're not like all different or something. They're all pretty much roughly the same. The next kind of pendants we're going to show are different. So we have these beautiful agate pendants. So these are $16 pendants here I'm going to show. So these are called cabochons. So if you're familiar with jewelry, a cabochon is basically a stone that has been polished, kind of like it has a kind of like a spheroidal polish on the front or the top of the stone, and it's been flattened or cut on the back, so it will sit flat on your chest. So a cabochon, or a cab for short, that's what that means. It's basically a flat-bottomed spheroidal stone that is meant to go in jewelry. And so these are all set in sterling silver. In fact, all the pieces that we have here are set in sterling silver. And just to have like something like this, I mean, these are just really pretty. You know, just looking at, especially after looking at the agate slabs earlier, these are very nice. They're very pretty, very elegant. This is our next $16 agate pendant here. A little bit more smoky. As you can see, the light does go through it pretty well. Really depends on, you know, like what your style is. Jewelry is, you know, such a, I mean, it's an art form, you know, so really depending on what your thing is, what you're really into. There's jewelry out there for everybody. So this next one, $14 agate pendant. This is a triangular cab. This piece is kind of it's like very similar to moss agate. So moss agate has a lot of these little speckles in there, some like stark smokiness. As you can see, it's a pretty nice cab, very spheroidal. Yeah, just the layering alone is really gorgeous. When you get it at that angle, you can see the layers just so well. Very beautiful. Again, that one is 14. And then we have these. These are pieces of howlite. This is green howlite. Now, I actually like this color. I love like that kind of seafoam green, or like that light kind of lime green or key lime green. So this is definitely a very summer color, I think. This piece here is 15, and then we have a smaller pendant of the same material. This is 12. So both are set in sterling silver. For a size comparison, we'll kind of take a look here at them. Basically, this is what we're looking at. So this one is a bit smaller than this one, but they're absolutely gorgeous. I love that color. That contrast too is just gorgeous. Next, we have some picture jasper, which is pretty cool. Most of this material comes from, like, you can find it in Oregon, but a lot of this material does come from China, and it's really pretty. Looks like it's very landscapey. So this piece here is $14. I almost liken it to a cave painting. It's very, very pretty. And, you know, I think, yeah, it's definitely not gonna, yeah, it's really pretty. Now the next ones I'm going to show, these are all point pendants, and we showed these last time. We sold a couple. We have amethyst, and then we have aquamarine, and then we have quartz. So this one, these are actually chakra points. So they're cut points, and they have all the chakra stones on them, which is pretty neat. So we have amethyst here, a really vibrant purple, set in sterling silver. And then next we have a aquamarine. And so that one was 12. This one is 15, so it's a bit longer. And that aquamarine too, it's definitely really pretty. It gets a lot more blue on the tip, which I love, that contrast, that kind of gradient. This next one is also 15. This is just a piece of clear quartz. This is definitely very elegant. Definitely would catch the light really well. And just even seeing that interior reflection of the chakra crystals in there is just really cool. Again, this one's 15. This next one is 14. This is actually a teardrop point of opalite. Opalite is a flux glass, which is very pretty. And it's called opalite because it's kind of like, it has very similar effects to opal, just the way it catches the light. It has some really nice fire. Yeah, it is absolutely gorgeous. I love these kind of things. Next, we have some scotialite, which is really neat. It's kind of like, has a bloom structure to it. It's lots of air energy in this one. Also set in sterling silver, and if we're lucky, we might even be able to see some of those light play effects in it. There we go. So as you can see, it's very fibrous, has a very fibrous crystal structure. It's very pretty, catches the light really well. This last one, black tourmaline. So this has actually been electroformed on, so it's a sterling silver electroformed cap. And black tourmaline is very good for just repelling negative energy. And because it's so brittle, it's really hard to like place in jewelry like this. So the only real way to kind of put it into like a pendant form, besides wire wrapping it, is basically just to electroform on some kind of cap. Yeah, this kind of material is very, very sensitive to heat. This one is $19. The last one was $10. And I think that wraps it up for pendants. Next, we're going to look at some of our artist wares. So we have a lot of artists that we work with. They make all sorts of stuff. We have, people who make handmade stone knives, bracelets, jewelry, all sorts of things. And so we have this one artist, Soen Stag. She makes handmade knives and earrings, very cool stuff. So these knives, these are handmade knives, and it's everything here, bone handle, everything, all has been harvested by this artist. So she used to work at a restaurant, and they served basically like a lamb bone shank thing at their restaurant, and she would basically take the bones, treat them, recycle them, and basically finish them and turn them into handles. And she would find the agate herself, mine it, and nap it, and turn it into a knife, just like this. So these knives are entirely handmade from scratch. Very, very impressive. This piece here is $68, and this agate here. This looks kind of like it might be like some kind of moss agate, like a green moss agate. Most of the material I know is from like the Nevada-California border, so a lot of it's going to be agate or jasper that she's napped. So again, this is a very beautiful piece here. Definitely something, if someone's really into this kind of stuff, like wanted a really cool knife to put on their shelf, definitely would be the thing to do. Next, we got another one. This one is, I think we'll kind of move up from price. We have two here, actually three. The next three are actually about the same size and the same price. So this one is $135. This is a massive knife here. I'm going to scoot the camera back. Take a look at this. So entirely handmade, hand-napped, absolutely gorgeous. So, and I love the fact that it's basically all recycled materials. Literally, she did not let anything go to waste. So definitely a lot of hard work was put into this. Now this, I believe, is some kind of agate. Definitely you can tell by the texture. Let's take a little close-up look at the material itself. Just take a look at that. All that work put into napping this. Very, very gorgeous work. And what's nice too is that it's, I mean, they're sturdy. I mean, you know, not that anyone would want to use something like this, but you could use it. I mean, it's, you know, it is what it is. You can put it on a shelf, you know, somebody breaks into your house. Ah, I got a bone-handled knife. I'm going to come after you. That kind of thing. Oh. But it's really cool. I love this kind of stuff because it's like very, like, you know, Stone Age-ish. Very primal. I love, like, old stone tools like this. You know, it's I mean, this kind of stuff, like napping in general, has been done by humans for tens of thousands of years. So definitely, I would say it's probably one of the oldest skills, like human skills, on the planet. So this is kind of like a brownish kind of jasper. Again, we have another long handled knife here. Pretty massive. Another $135 specimen here. Yeah, I mean, these pieces, again, I can't say enough good things about them. Very gorgeous. The last one here, another $135 knife, about the same length. Basically, same gist, right? We got agate blade, hand napped. Absolutely gorgeous. What's nice about this one is you can actually see, like, through the knife. It's kind of translucent, so that's pretty neat. Alrighty, next we have some amber jewelry. This is made by an artist. Her business is called Coconut Leaf, and she makes a lot of, like, different bracelets, and she actually specializes in making teething bracelets for babies. And in the Baltic countries, or in the Baltic Sea in Northern Europe, it was common for mothers to make handmade amber bracelets for their babies, teeth on. Now, she also makes, you know, jewelry for adults as well. But we have all sorts of these things here. We have, like, this one, for example. She has this gorgeous, like, amber bracelet here. This piece here is $25. So we have these gorgeous pieces of aquamarine here with amber. And what's nice too is that you have this amber kind of like screw here. So you can easily unscrew it and it comes off, and then screw it back on. And it's entirely secure, so it's not going to come off. Absolutely gorgeous. I love amber, especially amber jewelry. It really is just catches the light beautifully. And amber being, you know, the sap of trees, that kind of thing. It's like the lifeblood, right? It's very life-giving. So that is, in itself, is just like a metaphor, metaphysically. So this next one here, we have kind of like something very similar. We have some lava stones, some aquamarine, again, more amber. So they're all pretty different. These fit my wrist really well, and I have some pretty big wrists. Um, you know, definitely don't worry about it not fitting. It will definitely fit you. We also have some that are a bit smaller. This last one was 25. This next one here, it's a bit smaller. It's 18. So we got a smaller one here. We have some howlite beads with some amber again as well. Really, really pretty stuff. Pretty work. Next we have another gorgeous amber bracelet. This one is pretty neat. It has coconut beads. So these are beads basically made out of coconut shells, and kind of amber as an accent. Kind of something a little more woody or natural. I definitely like this kind of stuff. Just the texture of the beads is really nice. So this piece here is 25. A lot of her bracelets are priced at $25. Like this one, for example, we have some more aquamarine, some more amber. These are more chip beads. The chip beads catch more light. I actually prefer these than just the rounded ones, but they're all absolutely gorgeous. Now, another thing too, amber, for anyone who's curious about amber beads or buying amber, amber is very expensive and it's hard to get a hold of, so don't expect an easy time getting a hold of some of these. This is a larger bracelet. This is another $25 one. This one has turquoise and amber. Kind of a neater, cool accent here. Very pretty. And I think that wraps it up for the artist wares. So, we like to feature some local artists and, support other businesses and things like that. It's cool. I think it's nice to show some support for everybody else too. And those knives, I love those knives and the amber. I actually bought 2 of her bracelets, and they're absolutely gorgeous. I wear them sometimes. They're really pretty in the sunlight. So next we got some lepidolite plates. So for those who don't know what lepidolite is a type of mica. Mica is a flat sheet-like mineral, and it forms in sheets. And if you're familiar with makeup, mica is found in almost every single kind of makeup that has any kind of sparkly stuff in it. Mica makes things sparkly. It's very glittery, catches the light really well, so you'll find it a lot of times in blush. You'll find it a lot in like foundations, that kind of thing. So when you crush it up, that's the stuff that's used in makeup. But in its natural state, you'll find it in these kind of like sheet-like structures. So these pieces, for example, these are all $3 lepidolite sheets. So as you can see, it's flat on both the bottom and the top, but if you look closely, you can see these little layers, right? They're like little flaky sheets laid out one on top of another. And so they actually form like this. So that means they only cleave in one direction. So to break these apart, it's very difficult to break these apart like breaking it that way. You have to break it across the plane here. Which is why a lot of these are actually cut on one side. That's the only way to work with it. What is kind of neat about these is that they are pretty semi-translucent, so you can actually see your finger from the other side. They're really gorgeous pieces. And again, these are all $3 specimens I'm showing here. This next piece is really gorgeous. Now, lepidolite is high in lithium, which is what gives it its purple color. So oftentimes you're going to find this in areas where there's some kind of tectonic activity like metamorphism, or you'll find these a lot of times in igneous rocks, so like granite or pegmatites. Lepidolite is much more rare than normal muscovite mica, just due to the fact that you need to have an injection from the inner earth of lithium. and lithium is it's not the most common thing on the planet, so it has a very rare occurrence. You're not going to find it everywhere, so only very rarely will you see like deposits that actually have this kind of material. And the blades too, I mean, they're just gorgeous pieces. I mean, I love this stuff. I think it'd be kind of cool to have like some kind of stained glass window made out of this material. It's absolutely gorgeous. Alright, so those are our $3 pieces. We have a whole flat of these, so if you're interested in some, we can definitely take some pictures for you. Next, we're going to show our $6 sheets. So we have some pretty large sheets of this stuff. This is kind of shaped like a heart. Kind of cute. So notice the shape here. We have this six-sided kind of crystal here, kind of forming. 1, 2, there would have been 3 over here, 4, 5, 6. And so the muscovite in general will actually form in long kind of rods that are six-sided on all sides, and they're layered out in sheets like this. So that kind of crystal habit, that's what we call that. It's a crystal habit. That's the most common thing to find for muscovite. So you'll find it in long linear rods going through the rock, and the direction upon which those rods are pointing will tell you where the center of the underground pocket of magma is. So these form in igneous rocks. Igneous, the beginning prefix igni, means fire, and so that means just a rock born of fire, igneous rocks. And so what that means is that, or how they form, I should say, you basically have these big, huge tectonic plates that are subducting underneath one another. And one plate will be subducting under a plate. And that subducting plate will basically go underneath into the inner earth where it's super hot. It will start to melt immediately. And because it's loaded with water is used as a flux. Water will lower the melting temperature of a material. So what will happen is that the rock will melt at a much lower temperature than it normally does. And what will happen is that the little huge globules of magma will melt off of this subducting plate, and will actually melt through and percolate up through the continental crust, so land. So for example, in a place like South America, you have this huge volcanic mountain range called the Andes. That whole coastline is an active coastline, meaning that you have this huge plate called the Nazca Plate, which is subducting underneath the South American plate. And that subducting plate melts off, creates all this huge chain of volcanoes, and these big pockets of magma. Some of them will penetrate through the surface and form a volcano. Some, on the other hand, will cool underground and turn into these things called plutons. Plutons are cooled underground crystallized pockets or globules of magma. And so if you give something enough time, for example, if you cool a huge pocket or a pluton of magma very slowly, give it a lot of time to cool, it'll grow huge crystal grains. It will start to crystallize. And so that's where you find this kind of stuff. You find lepidolite, you find tourmaline, you find gemstones like sapphires and rubies and emeralds in that kind of environment. So because it's given enough time to crystallize. If you give a material enough time to crystallize, you're giving the elements enough time to organize into a crystalline structure and have crystals form. This piece is really cool too, kind of translucent. But yeah, these guys are awesome. These come from Brazil, and it's from a mineral-rich region called Minas Gerais. And there's a ton of cool minerals there. Lots of cool emeralds, rubies, sapphires, this stuff, lepidolite. In fact, this is really well known. That area is really well known for its lepidolite resources. And I guess the final thing, look at that. That's why it's in makeup, right? Very glittery stuff. All right, so these pieces, these were all $6 each. Next, we're going to move on to our next flat. And I think what we'll do is this will be our last flat, and then we're going to take a short break and then get some more stuff out. Since we're going to be doing this to 3. Alrighty, so we got a lot of fine specimens here. So these are all of our fine specimens. We have a ton of flats of fine specimens. Basically, we mine and obtain material, and there's some pieces that are just phenomenal. They are exquisite. And so those pieces we set aside and put into special flats, and they're priced differently. They're high quality. These are all like something you'd find in a museum. So that doesn't mean that they're not affordable. They definitely are affordable, but they are museum quality pieces. So I will go through each one of them here. This is a gorgeous piece of malachite from the Congo. This is a $32 specimen. And, you know, looking at the malachite from earlier, this definitely doesn't look the same, right? It's very fibrous. So this, like, variety of malachite underwent different conditions while it was growing, which is why it looks the way it does. Yeah, so this stuff is very pretty. This is $32. You know, in a lot of these fibrous minerals, they're like, there's just something about them. They're this very kind of like whimsical. I definitely like them. And we even have like a little hole there. It goes right through the specimen. Very neat. And just the way the light kind of bounces off the specimen itself is pretty cool. Next we have another kind of like copperish mineral, right? So we have some chrysocolla on malachite from the Congo. And this is really neat. We have turquoise on top, malachite in the middle, and chrysocolla on the bottom. And then on top of that is a matrix rock, which is really neat. So this is what we got. Look at that. Those dark blue crystals there, those are crystals of malachite. We have some crystallized malachite on the surface there. This light blue, sky blue mineral here, this is turquoise. And then, of course, we can see the classic dark green banding of the malachite inside. And then that bright, deep blue layer on the very bottom, closest to the rock, that is chrysocolla. So the difference between chrysocolla and turquoise and malachite and azurite and chrysocolla are silicate. They're copper silicate minerals, while turquoise and malachite are copper carbonate minerals. So definitely a different formation process. You can even see the difference too, just in the color. Usually when there's silica involved, the color will be a lot more extreme. So, for example, turquoise being a carbonate, right? So we have the carbonate mineral. It's going to be kind of lighter in color. It's going to be very botryoidal. It's going to be less harsh. The chrysocolla, however, is like a lightning blue color. So that definitely gives you an idea, okay, well, there must be something enhancing the color. And usually if it's silica allows more light in, which allows more like refraction, and you can see more of that color. Yeah, this mineral is very cool. This is a very nice specimen. This specimen here is $30. Not bad, huh? Alright, so next we got, I think I'll show this pretty galena cluster. This is galena on pyrite from Peru, and this piece here is $25. A very cool metallic mineral. Love it. And then on the bottom, of course, we got some pyrite peeking through there. Very cool. Now, galena is a lead mineral, so that means it has lead and sulfur in it. It's very heavy and dense. Definitely would not recommend, like, you know, eating something like this. It's very heavy and dense. You can definitely handle it. It's perfectly safe. Just wash your hands afterwards. But yeah, I love this kind of stuff. It's like a lot of people will pick up a piece of like galena and will just be like, whoa, like it's super heavy. Wasn't expecting that. Yeah, it's like a big lead weight, you know? Very cool. So this piece is $25. Next, we have this gorgeous smoky quartz cluster from Malawi, Zambia, Africa. And this smoky quartz cluster, it comes from a mine where there's a lot of these minerals called azurine minerals. You can even see some azurine in here. Azurine is a black mineral. It's a very dark, it's kind of like a dark olive green color. You can even see the some of the rods here, right? That's like a rod of azurine. But of course, you can see these gorgeous rods of smoky quartz. Just these huge points, these tiny little like towering points just spiring out. The locality where these come from, it's very cool. Over here we have some feldspar crystals, very neat. Now this specimen here is $40. You know, and it's kind of nice to remind you guys that, you know, all of our fine specimens are going to be in a nice box, nice display box. So when you order something like this, you know, you can, you know, it's going to be like, you don't have to worry about displaying it. It comes in a nice little padded box, little house. So it's pretty cool. I like these ones. The azurine clusters are pretty cool. This next cluster I'm going to show, this is a $48 cluster of azurine on feldspar. And this one is really neat. Definitely you see the spireness of this material. Take a look at that. Isn't that neat? It's like little, like, I don't know, like just spires like sticking out. It's like a little layer that a dragon would live in. You know, it's very like otherworldly. When you see something like this, I mean, you know, these crystals, they had to be undisturbed for quite some time. When you see these long rods, you know, and just to think that, like, you know, like something like this can form underground. I mean, you see something like this, it's like so alien. It's not like a normal like quartz cluster. It's very unique. Hence why it's in our fine mineral specimen collection. So this specimen here, we have azurine, of course, which is this dark spiring mineral here, and then we have feldspar right here. Very cool stuff. All right. Next, we're going to look at some blue chalcedony from Malawi. This is, I think most of these will be $30 each. Just check here. No, we got some that range in price. So these are really cool. It's like a nice kind of like soft baby blue color. Just take a look at that. I mean, isn't that just gorgeous? So these blue chalcedony clusters from Malawi, the blue, it comes from a very like small little hint of cobalt, and that basically just gives it the color. Just it being chalcedony, it's very high in silica. You can even see that like gorgeous druzy in there. It's like a little disco ball in there. Take a look at that. So these pieces are very elegant. The color is very elegant. I love this piece. Next, we got another piece of blue chalcedony. This piece is also $30 from Malawi. Yeah, these are really gorgeous pieces. Yeah, the druzy is like what is so eye-catching about the chalcedony. Because it's such a light material, the layers are pretty hard to see, but that druzy is just catches your eye. It's a very nice contrast to the color. Yeah, absolutely love this material. All right, next we're going to show some gorgeous specimens of cobalt. No, nope, nope, not cobalt. This is cobaltian calcite. Getting a little ahead of myself. So these, I think, are from the Congo. Nope, they're from Morocco. All right, so these all from Morocco? Yes, they are. Okay, so cobaltian calcite. It's actually it is a type of calcite. It has high amounts of lithium in it, and just the color by itself is pretty eye-catching. You know, you don't find this too often anywhere. You're either going to find it coming from the Congo. A lot of localities in Africa are going to have this. You can find this in Australia, and I don't think you can find any here in the States or in North America at all. You can find some, actually. No, you can find some in Central America. I do know that. So the coloration, though, is different. In Central America, it's a bit lighter in color, but in Africa, a lot of the localities are going to be brighter in color. So this piece here, this is $24. This next piece, however, is $32, and just the color alone is electric. I mean, look at that. This piece here, this is $24. This next piece, however, is the blue specimen. It could have either been blue chalcedony, or it could have been this gorgeous piece of copper carbonate material. So it's like chrysocolla. I can show it real quick after I display this beautiful piece here. Again, that piece is $32. This was one of our $30 chrysocolla pieces. It might have been this one. We've shown a couple blue pieces. Before this, we showed some big chunks of lapis. But besides that, this is like the next really beautiful blue thing that we showed. So we have some gorgeous, like, silica-rich malachite crystals kind of growing on the surface here. And we have, of course, this beautiful botryoidal layer cake of turquoise, malachite, and then chrysocolla on the bottom on the matrix rock. Very gorgeous display. Almost looks like a jawbreaker, you know? And that piece is $30. Next, we have our last piece of cobaltian calcite. Now, this one is pretty cool. I'd say this is like the next brightest one. Just looking at that. Now, being rich in like manganese and lithium, you're gonna have some pretty bright colors. You can even see those darker layers in there, right? So you're talking like manganese, you're talking about that, you know, heavy oxidation, but it's gonna yield some really bright pinks, a lot brighter pinks than you normally see in nature. Another common mineral that has that kind of stuff in it is rhodonite, so or rhodochrosite. Any of those rich in manganese, so those are definitely going to be high oxidation rates. You're going to have lots of like black oxidation all over the specimen, but then inside is going to be usually a bright pink color. These specimens I'm going to show next. These are our last ones before our break. These are $29. I think they're all $29. Yep, they're all $29 coprolite specimens from Madagascar. So if you're unfamiliar with what a coprolite is, it is fossilized dinosaur poop. So pretty cool stuff, right? So as you can see here, they are pretty weird looking, right? So a lot of these, a lot of times people are like, oh, it's dino poop, I don't want to touch that. In reality, the dinosaur poop is actually just gone. It's been recrystallized with something else. So we call that like mineral replacement. So once it's been replaced, the original like fossil itself is gone. So this is kind of like a remineralized kind of like specimen, like a fossil specimen. So the original fossil is gone. Sadly, there's no dinosaur poop in this anymore. Just the fossil evidence. But they're pretty cool. They're all $29. They're all kind of neat. This one is like really neat. I'm surprised no one has bought this. It's like a really weird kind of like spiky ball. And you could definitely tell that they're carbon rich, just from the color. Very dark and blackish. And this is definitely a cool gift to give somebody like who's a geologist or like a paleontologist, somebody who loves dinosaurs. Do it as like a gag gift. Be like, hey, I got this really cool mineral I want to show you. Put it in their hand and tell them it's dinosaur poop. First time I ever had an experience with this mineral, this trace fossil. That was what happened to me when I was a kid. My uncle gave me one and was like, oh, guess what this is. So definitely one of those like fun little things to show people. But yeah, these are all about like anywhere between 70 to 100 million years old. So, give or take a couple million years all across the board. Generally, if you're looking at Madagascar, you're looking at some fairly old fossils and minerals. That's pretty neat too. Last one I'm going to show is this guy here. So definitely one of those fun things you can show people, I definitely like it. The last thing I'm going to show for our break is this gorgeous piece of Mexican agate. This is $19. Take a look at that. The layers in there. And just at $19, it's just a gorgeous piece. You can even see just the layering in there is exquisite. The whole specimen itself is just gorgeous. But if we can get a close-up there of the layers here, let's see. Yeah, take a look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, the agate that we have is just, from the slabs to these specimens, absolutely gorgeous. We're going to take a short break and get some more stuff on our table to show you guys for the next half of our stream. We have about a little over an hour left. So we'll probably be back in 10 minutes. We'll still be on. You guys tune in a little bit later. You'll see us moving around, doing some stuff, showing some stuff. So we'll be back in a little bit for some more cool minerals to show you guys. So keep watching, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.
knocking the door every now and then, asking a piece of his heart. Well, she won't stay, he knows her. She'll never come closer. She'll never come closer. Burning like a fire, forbidden desire, forbidden desire.
Alright guys, we are back with some more cool rocks, some more cool minerals. Maybe we might have some fossils. Just took a 15-minute break to get some more stuff here on the table. We're going to be on for probably another 40 minutes or so. So let's get started. So just as a reminder, the way this works, we have all sorts of items that we're showing today. And we have a little display area that we're showing all these cool minerals in, and each thing has a price. So we list the price, we show it off. If you like it, leave a comment in the comment section and let us know. All right, let's get started. So these are some gorgeous smoky quartz clusters from Arkansas. This piece here is $79. And what's really cool about these come from a mine called the Coleman Mine. Now, the Coleman Mine is a world-famous quartz mine. This mine produces some of the highest quality quartz in the world. Some of their clusters are the size of like a car, so they're lifting them out of the ground with like padded with mattresses with a big crane. Absolutely insane stuff. So that's kind of gives you an idea of like how cool or how special this locality is. A lot of these clusters are very high in quality. I'm just going to clean off our lens here. So as you can see, in the right light, we might even be able to see some refraction here. So right there, this point here, we can even see some light refraction, which is pretty cool to see, and a very clear, like near perfect point. A lot of these don't have microcrystalline fractures, which causes a lot of that rainbow effect. Instead, the rainbow effect is actually caused by the light getting trapped inside of the smoky quartz, and it just reflects out. It basically splits the light because it bounces around so many times inside the crystal, which is really neat. So as you can see, this is a type of quartz called Faden quartz, which usually forms along matrix pieces that are pretty like blocky. So basically you have a shard of a material, like one large piece of rock. It's very like thin and sliver-like, and the quartz crystal will actually grow and form on all sides of it. A very thin kind of layer, almost like very like elegant, like little points that will come out. These points on Faden quartz usually are very small. They're tiny, like they're druzy-like. So you don't have like huge quartz like points coming out. But this piece is kind of neat. We have like a double terminated point here. We have bottom point there and the top point here. So that's kind of cool to see that as well. Just a neat specimen. Next, we have this other smoky quartz cluster. This piece is again from Arkansas. It's $29. Just take a look at that. So just the price of this piece here, $20. It's a very good price for a small cluster like this. Generally speaking, smoky quartz is going to be some of the most expensive quartz that you can buy. So you're not going to find it really any cheaper than this, since we sell like right above wholesale. So normally, like a cluster like this, you could expect to pay like $50 to $60 for, maybe, especially this kind of quality. So price-wise, spot on, great price. But yeah, because of the rarity too of smoky quartz, it's going to also increase the price as well. So the way you create smoky quartz, though, pretty interesting. You have to irradiate quartz, so that means you have to heat it somehow. So generally, it'll be heated via tectonic processes. So you have like maybe some heat and pressure going on, some tectonic activity. It's compressing the rock. Maybe there's, this material got buried and it got heated by the inner earth, which would actually start cooking the stone. And it will actually burn it, on a very like molecular level. It will actually change it a little bit, and it will give it this kind of smoky, kind of burnt color. Kind of interesting. All right, next we're going to show these $35 Herkimer Diamond specimens. These are really pretty. These are some of our cheapest Herkimer Diamonds that we have. They're large. Obviously, you can see there's lots of imperfections, lots of micro fractures and things like that. But for $35, this is such a good price. These all come from Herkimer, New York. And these are, I mean, this is something you're going to find a lot of. If you ever go mining up there like we do, you're going to find, you know, Herkimer diamonds about like this, you know. So this is very common to see, very, very common. And then also, too, the fact that you have double terminations, one here, full, even with the imperfections, that also is pretty awesome to see for the price. So, again, $35 for this gorgeous specimen. The next three are also $35. So as you can see why they're 35 bucks. Normally, a pristine Herkimer diamond like this would be probably $300 to $400, maybe. If it's absolutely gorgeous, like no imperfections at all, probably you can expect that price to double. So these, I would say, are anywhere between single A and double A in quality. Definitely lots of fracturing, but if you wanted an affordable Herkimer diamond, this is like the best route for you. All right, we got two more to show here. This one is really pretty. Yeah, remember, a lot of those microcrystalline fractures give you a lot of the rainbow effect, right? That light refracting and splitting. So you're going to see a lot of that when you have those fractures. Now, a lot of these, like conchoidal fractures, you might notice that they're in various locations, almost like shattered glass. And when these are being mined, you can, open up a pit with dynamite, and some of them will just, pop it out of the ground, and they'll turn into shock quartz. So shock quartz is basically quartz that has been vibrated so intensely that it shocks the quartz crystal structure and basically shatters it. It fractures the whole thing. You get that when you heat quartz up. You can see that when you intensely vibrate it, almost like an opera singer breaking a wine glass. The vibration of their voice could simply break the glass. So, it could be because of that. It could be from impact. So, for example, when you're mining these are found in hard dolomitic limestone. Very grueling work. And so you're oftentimes hitting these big boulders with sledgehammers all day long. And you might, miss your mark a couple times. And you might shatter a couple of Herkimer diamonds while you're at it. So, there definitely are sacrifices being made to even obtain these. But yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous. And definitely, if you're ever in the upstate New York area, go to Herkimer. There's a ton of Herkimer mines up there. Definitely try going to the Ace of Diamonds mine. It's an awesome mine. Definitely go there and check them out. That's where we get a lot of our Hercs from. So again, these are all $35. Pretty good deal, I'd say. Alrighty, so next we're gonna look at what we got here. I think I'm gonna look at some of our kunzite specimens. The last time we looked at our kunzite was like one of our first streams that we did, and it's expensive, it's rare, so yeah, it's one of those like fine specimens that we carry. It's very big in the metaphysical community. It's also considered a gemstone, so it's classified as a gemstone in the GIA. So, these are usually priced per gram, which is why they're so expensive, and they're also very rare. I'm going to show some of our, I'll show maybe two really expensive ones, and then the rest I'll kind of choose some of the more affordable ones. So, let's see here. So these two large ones that we have, Kunzite is actually very interesting too. It grows in rods similar to tourmaline. And so what makes it interesting though is that if you look at it from one angle, it looks clear, almost crystal clear. But if you look at it from another angle, it'll actually look bright pink, which is kind of neat. This one doesn't have a lot of that effect, but you can kind of see maybe a very light kind of lavender or like pinkish color. The quality of the crystal here, these form in igneous rocks. These are very rare. The quality of the crystal, especially for a rod like this, you don't see something like this too often. So this piece here is $100. It's a $100 kunzite specimen from Afghanistan. Next, we have more of a pinkish kunzite specimen. This one really shows that pink color really well, that color changing quality. So you can definitely see where it gets more opaque. You can definitely see that light turning into pink, reflecting that color. But if you turn it a little bit, you might notice some difference, like some light play going on here. So because you can see definitely it's a crystal made of rods, and being made of rods, the light will channel through those rods. So if we turn it, what we'll see a bright pink just color. Look at that. So this pink color comes from lithium and aluminum. So it's rich in lithium and aluminum, which is what gives it the color. Lithium, in nature is pink, kind of purplish, lavender in color. And so this stone is really kind of valued in the gem industry because of its color changing effects. So oftentimes it'll be cut at such an angle to where if you walk from one side of the person that's wearing it to the other side, it'll be pink from one angle and clear from another angle. It's very, very interesting in regards to light play. This specimen here is $125 from Afghanistan. Next, I'm going to show some more affordable pieces. This is a $65 kunzite specimen. Not a lot of pink in this one. You can see some light pink in there, but definitely you see the rod-like nature of it. And the quality of the crystal, again, superb. You can see just right through it. Lots of detail, very high quality. All these pieces are rated at AAA. So, if you were a gem cutter, this would be something that you'd want to buy. And these are not riddled with fractures, so you don't have to worry about, cutting into something. This is another really pretty piece. This is a $35 kunzite specimen. Definitely you can see it's a bit more pink. Lots of fractures in this one, but you can definitely see that kind of rainbow essence, that refraction going on in there. So a lot of these are very popular in the metaphysical community because of its light changing effects. This next one here, this is a $69 kunzite specimen. Again, color-wise, absolutely gorgeous. So we have, again, you can kind of see it's like kind of ice colored. So there's really just kind of colors from this angle. But if we turn it, you can see that pink color in there, right? So again, on the chemical level, on the atomic level, the lithium in there, that's what we're seeing. That's what we see as being pink. Just again, another really nice pieces. This piece here is $69. Next is a very similar piece. We have, again, kind of like a very, light colored specimen. As you can see, whenever it gets kind of opaque, the light actually has a better chance of splitting apart, and you can see the lithium in there much better. So it's more pink in color. But again, if we turn it, you can definitely see the pink color really, really well. Clarity wise, really good. Not a lot of fractures. That's what we want to see. This next specimen here, I'd say it's my favorite specimen of this flat. It is probably one of our best quality specimens by far. Literally no imperfections in this crystal. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is a $55 kunzite specimen from Afghanistan. And this is probably one of our finest kunzite specimens we have. Now the size of it, right, it is small, but you could probably turn this into maybe 5 or 6, you know, cut faceted stones that could be worth anywhere from $200 to $300 a piece. So you're basically, by cutting it, you'd be multiplying, you know, your funds here. It's just, this is basically like an investment. Buying gemstones like this, raw gemstones, entirely an investment. There are people that will actually, you know, kind of make an investment like and store their money in like physical wealth, for example, in gems. It's similar to people who buy gold in bulk, like a gold bar or an ingot. It's very similar to that. So, but again, I mean, just look at the refraction in there. Hardly any microcrystalline fractures, and the fact that it's covered in this really beautiful like kunzite druzy on the outside, it just gives it this gorgeous, like, it's like almost like looking into a window. You know, you're looking into this little world in there. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, this piece here is $56. Oh, sorry, $55. So again, a very gorgeous piece from Afghanistan. And I think the last one I'm going to show here, this is a $45 specimen of kunzite. Kind of interestingly shaped. As you can see, it's has like almost like a hammer shape to it. Definitely has that color play, right? That's what we want to see. That's very, very cool. Love this piece for sure. This again, $45. So a bit cheaper, definitely a little affordable. And you know, a lot of these kind of specimens too, it's nice for like a collector. If you are really into fine mineral specimens and you want to collect, having a piece like this is, you know, it's uncommon. Definitely isn't a staple, meaning that, you know, if you have this, it's rare. Not a lot of mineral collectors would have a piece of kunzite probably. Right, so next, I'm going to look at some amethyst geotabs from Sonora, Mexico. Now, again, I love the fact that we have stuff from all around the world. You know, I think, like, out of any of the other, like, professions, just the sciences in general, science is such a international thing. I mean, you have scientists from every single nation on the planet. So, you know, the science is the field of science, like just in general, all the science fields are very inclusive. It doesn't really matter where you come from or where you hail from, who you are. You know, it doesn't matter if you're what your gender is. It doesn't matter what stock you're cut from. It's all the same. It's just science, you know. So I love it. I love it. I love the fact that we get to go all over the world and see these beautiful minerals, and also just meet a bunch of really cool people. The family that we get these from, these are amethyst geodes. It's a family-owned mine in Sonora, Mexico, and the story goes is that the guy, he's like, it was kind of like he's a husband, had a wife, 3 kids, and he was a geologist, retired, and he had heard stories about this volcanic range that had these gorgeous amethyst geodes, and so he spent decades just looking for a deposit where these geodes were, and he couldn't. He searched and searched and searched, and right at the point where he was about to just kind of give up, he made one last trip out, and he found out where the geodes were. He found a bed of them, and not just that, he found a mega bed. He found where all of them were, so he claimed it, and his family has been working that mine for the last 15-20 years. And so we have a ton of these beautiful Sonoran amethyst geodes. The crystals inside are absolutely gorgeous. They're like a bright, kind of like light pink or purplish color. And the geodes, amethyst in general is going to form in volcanic rock. So these are actually found in very volcanic, ashy soils, like rhyolite. So they're kind of like rhyolitic based. These rocks are very iron rich, and you need iron to form amethyst. And so a lot of these geodes here, you're going to find some, we have some calcite in there, those lighter crystals there, but of course we have the amethyst crystals as well. All of the amethyst crystals are scepters. So that means that you have a very long, skinny point on one end, and then it's capped, kind of like a mushroom. You have a wide mushroom cap and like a skinny stalk. And scepters, crystal scepters, are basically that. They have a skinny kind of stalk with a large kind of cap. And so the crown of the crystal is going to be large, and they kind of look like scepters, like a king's scepter, queen's scepter. Very kind of cool. So we've been buying these for quite a few years now, and they're really neat. The family's awesome. The kids, they think their dad's crazy for going out in the middle of the desert and mining these. But, hey, I'm sure, if I had kids, they'd probably think that of me too. Why is he going out in the middle of the desert in like 125-degree weather, looking for rocks? It is kind of crazy, but it's cool. It's fun. Do what you love. If I had kids, they'd probably think that of me too. Why is he going out in the middle of the desert? Now, these are all $3 each. That's another thing. The fact that they're so cheap, there's a ton of them out there. So we have a really good deal with them. We buy them by like the barrel. So we have like barrels and barrels of these. These are all cracked open. We also have some that are unopened. So if you'd like some to try to crack open on your own, you can always buy some of those as well from us. We also sell the individual crystals themselves that are plucked out of the geodes. So depending on what you want the geode already open and cracked open, or you want the geode that you want to crack open yourself. Depending on what it is, we got it. So definitely let us know. Alrighty. So that covers that. I think next I'm going to show some Minealite. Minealite is a really cool stone, very ancient history behind that one. So Minealite is known as the goddess stone, and the moon in basically almost all like human civilizations, the moon has always been a symbol of the goddess of female energy, and mainly because life forms on this planet, a lot of our cycles are based off of the lunar cycle. So basically down to the biological level, depending on the cycle of the moon, it affects us on a biological level. Definitely affects women, that kind of thing. So, which is why it's associated with female energy. Now, Minealite is white like the moon. It is a stark white color. And if those who are familiar with like archaeology, some of the first human-made sculptures were actually sculptures made of female goddesses. And so usually it would be like a depiction of like a pregnant woman, and it would be like very simple. And the stone Minealite was kind of like always associated with fertility, with feminine energy, with the moon, and so kind of looks like the moon too, which is again why it's associated with divine female energy. They're really pretty too. These are actually called like sedimentary rocks, so we call these in geology concretions. So basically you have a like chalky like limestone like block, like a layer, and what can happen is that you have this layer is pretty unconsolidated, meaning that it's very dusty, and what can happen is maybe you have water that kind of seeps down into this layer, and the water will actually begin to evaporate and leave behind crystallized calcite, so carbonate, and that carbonate will actually cement these little particles of chalk or limestone together and create these little concretions. And so over the course of hundreds, thousands, millions of years, you have these really pretty concretions forming. They're kind of globule, like they're like little like bubbles or little vesicles, botryoidal. So they're they're definitely very whimsical specimens. And so, as you can see, they're kind of like, they're a bit chalky. Definitely you can tell where they've formed. A lot of these will actually come from like the chalk cliffs in Dover, in England, Ireland. So a lot of times you're going to find specimens like this in sedimentary rock like that. So these guys, generally you're going to find these like in places that are arid. So like a desert maybe, since you have a lot of sedimentary rock exposed to like hot air, which is going to evaporate water very quickly, which is what you need for concretions. So generally you're going to find them like in places like the Sahara, Morocco, Libya. You might find some of these like in parts of Mexico. Those are really the only areas I know about. You might find things similar to this in China, like the Gobi Desert. So things like this can be found all over the planet, but they're just really cool. I like them. Now, price-wise, we're looking at $7 each for these. Not bad. Definitely, like, either if you want to buy this for the metaphysical quality, or just because they look pretty, or just because you're a geology nerd like me. I mean, they're awesome. I love these guys. Alrighty, so that's our Minalite. And these pieces are from Morocco. Next, we're going to look at some golden wolfenite. Now, our golden wolfenite, I'd say this is like probably one of my favorite kinds of wolfenite. Wolfenite is a lead mineral, so you're going to find it a lot of times forming with or around galena. So galena is a lead ore. These are all priced individually, and this stuff is very rare. This is from Durango, Mexico, and the reason it's called golden wolfenite is because it's golden in color, and what's neat about it is that the crystals are like sandwiches. It's so neat. You have these two light layers that basically trap this denser layer in between. It's like they look like little sandwiches. I love it. They're so cool. Really neat. Now the stone that this is forming in here, I'd have to do some further tests on it, but I'd like to say, since it's from Durango, Mexico, it could be andesite. I don't think it's dolomitic limestone. You can tell it's a fairly fine-grained rock. But to have these crystals forming, you need to have high amounts of lead. So to have metallic ores deposit, you generally need some kind of volcanism, so geothermal activity to deposit that kind of stuff. So Durango, Mexico definitely has that kind of stuff. They have tectonic activity. It's fairly common. So that piece was $25. This next piece here is a tiny piece. It's also $25, but has a lot of little crystals. So these are priced by how many crystals they actually have. So you might have a small specimen like this, which is $25, just like the other one. But it's smaller, but it's loaded with crystals. The other one, however, was larger, but it had much less crystals. So they're usually going to be priced by that amount. It's like a crystal to size ratio. Next, this specimen here is $30. Yeah, you can kind of see why it's called golden wolfenite. It's really pretty stuff. Now, a lot of these too, wolfenite is such a fragile mineral that trying to get it, just as a whole specimen, it has to be attached to the matrix. They're very fragile, they do break, and as well, they also do decompose fairly quickly. So if they're left out into in the open air, they'll dissolve. Like they will just, the weather will destroy them. So oftentimes if you have an open pocket, it is kind of sad because the water will seep down into them and just kind of destroy the whole cluster. So these are actually, because they're, fairly dense minerals, they are found fairly deep in the earth. So oftentimes for them to be exposed, you do need quite a bit of exposure. Like you need to have a huge open pit mine or something like that. A lot of these are mined just handmade tunnels. We get these, a lot of our like minerals from Durango we actually get from a family. They have quite a few claims out there in Mexico, so which is pretty neat. And that one is $30. This next one has some pretty interesting contrast. I like it. It has a really dark kind of matrix, and it has a couple spotted wolfenite crystals on it. These are less sandwich-like. Now notice the thickness of the crystals, depending on the heat and pressure involved in creating these guys, will determine the thickness, the diameter, the shape, the color. So the larger the crystals are, generally if they're larger in one direction, which you can kind of see they're all kind of larger in one plane, that tells me that maybe there was some heat from a certain direction and they were kind of growing into that direction. That can be, a plausible answer to that. Let's see. I'm going to show one more of these. We'll move on to our next flat. And then I think our next flat will be our last one. Now, this one is very cool. I love this one. It's like the sun. I mean, it's so bright, so beautiful. And the golden wolfenite, I mean, just the color contrast alone, I'm a big fan of good contrast. So if we have really light and really dark, it makes the mineral pop so well. And they're just great for display pieces, definitely great for collectors. So this piece here, I love this because you have these kind of flattened crystal clusters out here. It's almost like a dendritic pattern. And then the center, the heart of the cluster is right in the middle, where you have these gorgeous sandwich pieces of wolfenite. And it's such a thin blade. I mean, look at that. It's such a thin cluster. It's getting these out of hard rock like this is unbearable work. I've done it. It's only worth it sometimes. For this kind of stuff, it is worth it, but it's hard work. Yeah, definitely doing that kind of stuff, that hard rock mining, definitely gives you a greater appreciation for specimens like that are found in rocks like that. Gives you greater appreciation for the miners. I mean, it's painstaking work. All right, next we have some more pyrite cubes. These are some smaller cubic pyrite clusters from Spain. Same locality, Nazca, Spain. Same family runs the whole mine. These are really cute. They're tiny. They're small. These are definitely a more affordable option if you don't want a huge pyrite cluster. These are $15 each. So each one is bound to have at least one cube sticking out of it. So for example, we have that one. We got this one. So 2 cubes. We have a couple small ones there. We have this one, which has 3. Kind of cool. And so as you can see too, the size of the crystal really does vary. I mean, you can have something as small or as small as a pea, hell, even smaller than the head of a pin, to the size of a watermelon. It really just depends. But these do grow like branches. They kind of branch off. We call that a dendritic growth pattern. So almost like lightning striking the ground, or light, the lightning basically just comes down and it basically veins just kind of come down from the sky. We call that dendritic patterning, and it's all over nature. You can see it in like magnesium stains, manganese stains on rocks and cracks and fractures. You can see them in roots. Roots are dendritic. So these crystal clusters, they will grow in dendritic patterns. So imagine just each little dendrite is just a cube, just growing off of one parent cube. They're very fascinating. I really like these. I mean, I always, again, big fan of metallic minerals, right? So, but they're very cool, very unique. I'm going to show 2 more here. This one's kind of cool. We have 2 clusters kind of dancing around. It's pretty neat. I like these. And just the reflective index here, like it's such a mirror finish. A lot of people, they think it's man-made, so, and it's not. It's the Earth. The Earth has made it naturally. So a lot of times, people will see these straight edges and think, it must be man-made. But it is 100% natural. Alrighty, I'm going to show you guys one more thing, and then I think we're just going to wrap up for today. Just as a reminder, for those watching this as a pre-recorded stream, for those that don't know, we have a YouTube channel, and all of our streams are uploaded there immediately after we stream. So check us out on YouTube, and you can see all of our prior streams, all of our cool specimens. And if you're watching it and you see something that you really like, drop a comment, message us and say, hey, is that specimen from an hour and 20 minutes still available? And we might say, yeah, it is, and we can hook you up with an order. So going back to pyrite, I think that's what we're going to stick with. I think this is what this is. Yep, it is large pyrite clusters. So this next piece I'm going to show, this is a gorgeous $105 pyrite cluster. Just take a look at the size comparison here. This thing is massive. And up close, it is absolutely beautiful. It is heavy. This is probably about, 5-ish pounds. So it's fairly massive. We do have some citrine. If you want, what we can do is we can maybe take some pictures and stuff for you. We have quite a few more flats that we just took out of our storehouse. So after the stream, we can take some pictures for you. But yeah, these are gorgeous. These huge clusters, just the huge facets and everything. I mean, I just love it. They are just phenomenal. Let's see if I can do a pretty slow rotation here. Yeah, these are just gorgeous. We had a kind of a neat little gimmick a couple years ago. Game of Thrones was like done with. It was their last season, and we had a little kind of like a cool little event, Game of Stones, and basically all you got to do is, it was in the wintertime, so it was kind of like a Christmas themed wintertime event, and all you had to do was just like, comment, and share, and we randomly picked like 3 winners, and we had one of these as the grand prize. So yeah, they are pretty expensive, and they're beautiful. So yeah, it definitely was one of those things that was like imagine being the person getting that, something like this, it's like a big lump of gold. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. These are all from Peru as well. So we have about 5 more left. We used to have quite a few of these large clusters, but not anymore. They are gorgeous. Maybe one day we'll get some more. Yeah, I think we probably will do stuff like that. Game of Thrones was such a influential pop culture thing. I mean, I loved that show. So, and I love the books too. So having something like that, it was kind of cool. I I love Tolkien stuff, so Lord of the Rings and that kind of thing. Might do something like that if that Amazon show ever gets released. But yeah, we definitely like doing that stuff towards the holidays. Definitely gets people involved, and we get to share some cool stones with people. So that's always fun. So yeah, all right, guys. Well, thank you guys all for watching, and we will try to keep doing this every weekend. We have a lot of stones, a lot more stuff to show you guys. We have flats upon flats out there, so I don't know if we'll be able to get through all of them within a year. Hopefully, maybe, who knows. But anyways, so we'll be back next weekend, same time, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And again, if you are watching this as a pre-recorded video on demand on YouTube, these streams are all uploaded to YouTube. Definitely check it out. If you missed the stream, you can see what kind of stones we featured, and just simply message us and ask, hey, is that stone still available? And we'll let you know. Yeah, and again, thank you guys for supporting us and tuning in, and we'll see you guys next weekend.